same things that you learned in adding decimals apply when you subtract decimals. Let's do this problem. Line up the decimal. Straight down. Put a line underneath it. Once you've lined up the decimal, there's nothing different from whole numbers. Can I take 8 from 5? No. If you say 8 minus 5 is 3, you need to go back to whole numbers. You don't subtract uphill, you subtract downhill. Can you take 8 from 5? No. So we borrow. 7 becomes a 6. 15 minus 8 is 7. 6 minus 3 is 3. Bring down the decimal. 3 minus 1 is 2. Subtracting decimals is just like subtracting whole numbers, except you have to line up the decimal. This is the kind of subtraction problem you'll see on a test that people will get wrong. Why? What's different about this problem from the last one? The last one, both numbers had a decimal point. In fact, they were set up like the American money system, and it was no problem for you to line up the decimal. Here you have to know what to do with the 16. What do you call a number that doesn't have a decimal? It's called a whole number. Where does the decimal go? If you can't find it, you put it behind it. If this were a dollar amount, I'd put a dollar sign here, 16.00. That's what we're going to do, is subtract it. I'm going to line up the decimal here. If you can't find the decimal, put it behind it, right here. Then put a 0 to mark each place. This is an easy problem to miss on a test. People will put the 16 over here, line up on the right side as if they're doing whole numbers. You cannot ignore the decimal point. Remember, a number that doesn't have a decimal point is called a whole number, and it goes here. At this point, you have to remember how to borrow. If you're not sure what to do with these zeros, go back to our subtraction section in the whole numbers and review that, because you subtract this exactly the way you would with whole numbers when you're borrowing. The decimal's already lined up. You don't have to worry about it. Can I take 5 from 0? No. You can't take $5 from an empty palm. You can never subtract from a 0. So we're going to borrow. I go next door. No money. No money. Finally, I find it here. Common mistake people will make: they'll borrow and bring it over here and skip a row, skip some columns. You can't do that. You can only borrow to the column right next door. I borrowed one here, it's going to go here. Now this one can borrow from the 10. That becomes a 9. That's a 10. Now we can borrow here. That becomes a 9. That's a 10. Another common mistake I'll see: people will treat this as a 9. There's no reason to do that. Did any column borrow from it? No. It's going to stay as a 10. Now I can do my subtraction. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 0 is 9. Bring down the decimal point. 5 minus 0 is 5. 1 minus 0 is 1. You can see that adding and subtracting follow the same rule. Line up the decimal. The thing to remember, the thing to watch for, is that when you have a whole number, a number without a decimal, you put the decimal behind it. Remember the mnemonic: if you can't find it, put it behind it. You won't have any problem.